the desire to explore. Welcome to lesson 5.2. In this lesson, I just have to read what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be looking at what elements of the worldview of Renaissance Europeans led to exploration and expansionism. So stick around and let's learn something. All right, welcome to lesson 5.2. What elements of the worldview of Renaissance Europeans led to exploration and expansionism? Last class, we did some vocabulary work and we read that opening story of Columbus and all that kind of stuff. So today we're going to take a look at, what was pushing these Europeans to go out there and explore. So this is the desire to explore. So they went for a few reasons. They went because they wanted to expand trade. They went because they wanted to expand their gold supply, and they also went out to explore because they wanted to expand on Christianity. So we're going to take a look first at exploring to expand trade. Europe at this time in our story here is spending a lot of money in Asia. Okay, they are buying luxury goods. They are buying all kinds of spices. The problem is Asia from the European countries is quite a distance away. So in order to get these goods back to Europe, it has to travel a very long distance, and it's exchanging through many hands. Plus, combined with the security that's needed on the Silk Roads, on these journeys, this is going to drive the prices super, super high. So who is this going to upset? This is going to upset the Europeans because they're having to pay the high costs. So Europeans are looking for a much easier, cheaper way of trading with Asia. What's the cheapest, easiest way to do that? Well, doing that through your sea routes. Now, a couple of things are also important to keep in mind during this time. There were some major conflicts that were happening, and this was driving up the cost of goods. So the first major conflict that is affecting our trade routes is the collapse of the Mongol Empire in 1405. When the Mongols were in control, the Europeans are entering one empire, and there's some sense of security there by having to only deal with the one empire and its subjects. But when the Mongol Empire collapsed, now the trade routes are becoming unsafe because now they're having to go through multiple different groups and things like that. And each time you're going through, you're risking your safety, and it's going to cost you a lot more to get through. The second major conflict was that the conquest of Christian Constantinople is now going to be in the hands of the Muslims. And this happened in 1453. And now, you've got the Muslims now that are in control here. And again, this is going to be unsafe for the Europeans if they want to get far east. They're going to have to pay for more security. Again, this is going to drive the prices up. So one of the reasons that the Europeans were looking to explore was because of trade. Another reason is to expand their gold supply. So it's no different than today. Like, economies depend on the exchanging of goods and resources. So just like today. Back then, gold coins more valuable than silver. That still is happening today. And the problem was, though, today we have other means of currency. It's not just the precious metals of gold and silver that we're looking at. We've got other things today that help to drive our currencies. But back then they didn't. So back then they needed these precious metals. And where do these metals come from? Well, you have to mine for them. And the European mines at this time, at one point they were lucrative, and there was tons of these resources there, but they were running low on gold and silver. So now the Europeans are having to look to other areas of the planet to fulfill that gold and silver need that the Europeans have gotten. The third reason that we are going to explore from a European perspective is to expand Christianity. The spreading of Christianity becomes super important because in the Bible, in the Gospel of Mark, it says, "Go into all the world and proclaim the good news to the whole creation." Europeans took this saying and they believed that it was the wish of Jesus that Europeans go out and spread the word of God and convert as many people as possible. So they went out, and that's what they did. So they had the trade and they were looking for gold, but then the other reason to explore was so that they can convert as many people as possible to Christianity. There was a Portuguese prince, Prince Henry, and growing up, just like many of the Europeans, there was this mythical person, Prester John, and he was the ruler of a great Christian kingdom. This was the belief at the time. Nobody knew where this kingdom was. Some said it's in Asia. Some said it's in Africa. Others say it was, well, it's nowhere in those two places. It's somewhere else. So this idea of finding Prester John and finding all of these Christians would help them, the Europeans that is, would help them in winning in the Crusades, right? So we want to try and find Prester John and this Christian kingdom and take these Christians and finally put an end to the Crusades by winning. Along those lines, while we're searching, we're going to come across all kinds of people anyways. We're going to convert them too, and then they can also join in the Crusades. And you remember from previous chapters, the Crusades were a big deal. These were these massive religious wars that were needed to be fought, right, in order to control the Holy Land. And the Holy Land is important for people who are Jewish, for the Muslims, and for the Christians. And we've talked about the Christians. We've been talking about all throughout grade 8 social studies. We've mentioned people who were Jewish, and we did talk about that faith as well. And the other major faith during this time period, this story of our history, world history, is that of the Muslims. And like Christians and like people who are Jewish, the Muslims have a holy book that they will follow, and it's the Quran. And we do talk more about the Muslims in later chapters, especially in Unit 2, when we talk about the Spanish and the Aztecs. We do spend some time talking about the Muslims as well. So I'm going to introduce them to you here. And there are 5 duties that I want to focus on when it comes to the Muslims. And those 5 duties are as follows. You are to declare, if you are Muslim, you are to declare that there is no deity, so no God, except for Allah, and Muhammad was Allah's messenger. Okay, now that's pillar number 1. You have to believe that. Well, Christians also believe in one God, as do people who are Jewish. They also believe in one God. Okay, so there's some commonality here. Pillar number 2, you practice your regular daily prayers. There's 5 prayers that you do daily. Number 3, you fast during the month of Ramadan for those who are physically and mentally able to do so. If you're living here in Edmonton and Ramadan happens to fall in the winter time, your duration of fast is not that long because it's only from sunrise to sunset. But if it's happening here in the summertime, that is going to be a very difficult thing for you. Pillar number 4 is you give to the poor. And pillar number 5 has to do with this picture here. And you must make a pilgrimage to the city of Mecca if you are physically able and financially able as your 5th pillar. Now, I'm introducing you to the Muslims now just so that we can have a little bit of background information for Unit 2 when we start talking more in depth about the Muslims and their beliefs and what they did for our society and our worldview. What I'd like you to do right now is head over and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.